Erin Pizzey. I found her story fascinating, and she's kind of a good poster person, I suppose, for the type of women you're talking about in the book, who have done undeniably a lot for creating a world where women are treated equally. But also, now in her later life, she's been weirdly co-opted by people who are perhaps not so focused on that aim.
But Erin Pizzey didn't just fall out with feminism because she disliked other feminists. There was also a fundamental political disagreement. She thought that the mainstream women's movement treated men as the enemy. She thought that women's own capacity for violence was being understated. And she thought that some women were beaten up by their partners because they wanted to be. That's a crude way of putting it. She prefers to talk about an addiction to violence and dysfunctional relationships in which both sides drive a vicious cycle. But if I state it like that, you can see why the rest of the movement wanted so urgently to tidy her out of the way. Pizzey's theory, elaborated in her book Prone to Violence, attempted to explain a phenomenon which baffles outsiders and horrifies campaigners tackling violence against women. Why do so many of them return to their abusers? Pizzey's own mother was violent, she says, and never left her father. They fought all over the world. Her father's job was well paid, so it wasn't money worries or stress or exhaustion that led to the violence. But both their own families had been violent and dysfunctional. One of the reasons that domestic violence is difficult for outsiders to understand is that victims both love and fear their abusers, and often try to excuse or cover up their behaviour. Pizzey's use of the phrase innocent victims does not imply that she believed that the other group of women, the violence addicts, should be left to die. On the contrary, those were the women she wanted to help most. In Pizzey's reckoning, women needed deep therapeutic interventions over months or years to break the cycle of violence. However, you can see why her diagnosis was so appealing to the men's rights movement. If there is just a mass of dysfunctional couples, then men are being wronged by the feminist fight against male violence. I raised this with Pizzey, pointing out that Refuge and other charities say 2 women a week are killed by their current or former partners. You see, this is the problem. You have to look at the evidence-based statistics. The feminist-based statistics aren't evidence-based. Where would be a good place to look at the evidence-based ones? A lot of them are on my website. I went and looked. I couldn't find the statistics she referred to.
Hello! It's the furious fact-checking fireman here. Sorry for the intrusion, but due to Section 4, Paragraph B of the Anti-Pants Inferno Code, I am duty-bound to interrupt proceedings to point out that Miss Helen Lewis's pantaloons are in serious danger of causing injury to anyone in the general vicinity. Not least the much-respected 80-year-old lady who kindly invited us all into her home. Either that, or the former deputy editor of the New Statesman is a chuffing idiot and is incapable of conducting the most rudimentary level of investigative journalism research. Allow me to explain. This is the homepage of Erin Pizzey's website, which is a treasure trove of interviews and articles featuring Erin Pizzey and other domestic violence experts such as Professor John Dutton and the late Professor Murray Strauss. As you will notice, www.honest-ribbon.org is not an especially difficult website to navigate, with the menu bar offering the visitor a grand total of 4 options to choose from. One of which is titled Studies, and if you click on Studies, you are led to a portal providing the world's largest domestic violence research database, curated by the editorial board of the peer-reviewed journal Partner Abuse and the advisory board of the Association of Domestic Violence Intervention Programs. And they have even included an at-a-glance page of facts and statistics on domestic violence, which my assistant, the quiet but conscientious ethical evidence-based researcher, will now attempt to summarise.
Hi, quiet but conscientious ethical evidence-based researcher here with a summary of the findings from the Partner Abuse State of Knowledge project, which for the uninitiated is the largest review of available domestic violence research conducted to date and carried out by family violence scholars from 20 different universities in the United States, Canada and the UK. Facts at a glance include the evidence-based research estimate that 23% of females and 19% of males will be assaulted by a partner at least once in their lifetime. There are higher overall rates of interpersonal violence among young dating populations and, surprisingly, higher victimization rates for male high school students when compared to their female peers. Two facts that highlight the importance of non-judgmental and non-gendered school-based interpersonal violence prevention and intervention efforts. Among large population samples, 57.9% of interpersonal violence reported was bidirectional, with both partners participating in dysfunctional and violent behaviours within the relationship. All of which goes some significant way to indicate that the majority of interpersonal violence cases do involve dysfunctional couples. That women can be just as violent as men in relationships. And yes, from a non-ideological evidence research-based perspective, this does indeed indicate that men, women and children are all being wronged by the feminists' exclusive focus and fight against male violence. Shame on you, Miss Helen Lewis. Shame on you. You are a disgrace to all responsible trouser wearers the world over.
Can't you see it too? There's an elephant in the room.